Hey everyone, it's Tango Oscar Mike, and I've been using this case for a little while now, and I wanted to go over it a little bit. I did mention that I did find something. I had an issue with the case, so let's get into it. Number one, these latches, they seem pretty solid. They're just as good as the Harbor Freight latches, if you ask me. This little pocket up here, you can barely fit a pair of headphones in there. I don't know why they give you a cover for it, but the best use for that is to stick your hand in there when you're pulling this out of the case. But other than that, that's the only purpose that I've found for using that. Now, let me get everything out of here. The other issue, and it's not really an issue, it's just the way it works. If you're using... If you have all the ports extended, including the speaker mic port, you can't use the onboard speaker. And that's just because when you plug in this cable, it disables the internal speaker and it plays the speaker through the microphone, which the speaker out of the microphone is not nearly as good as the speaker built into the radio. So that's a problem. So either you have to always use the speaker mic or you have to have headphones plugged in. I use headphones a lot, so that's not a big deal. But if I'm shooting video, I'm going to need you to hear it. I will have to take this out of the case and unplug that cable from the jack. Also, with the Bluetooth adapter, with Bluetooth, you have the option of the audio coming out of the headset or out of the speaker. But if you have the extension plugged in, again, you're not going to hear anything because it'll only play out that port. It doesn't, it overrides that. If you have this plugged in, if you have this jumpered to the radio, you have to have something plugged into there to be able to hear anything. Now, if you use the headset with the Bluetooth, you can use it, but again, you're using a headset just like you would if you would plug something in there. Now, the other thing is, look at these little tiny lock holes. I think these are supposed to be lock holes on the device, and look how small they are. I'd like to see you put a lock through there, and even if you did, that could probably be broken off pretty easily. So I wish the case was made a little bit better, but I can't complain. Now, with plugging headsets into these, because these two ports are so close together, if I plug a headset into there, once it's in, that port is very tight. It's very hard to get my fingers in there to unplug the headset. I almost have to unplug the mic jack so I can reach around and pull the headset out, because I can't turn my hand sideways and get my hand in there. If these were spaced a little bit farther apart, it might be easier, but again, you're getting away some of the usability of the device. Now, to the biggest issue I've had, the microphone jack plugs in. I had a problem where if this wiggled, I would see the radio kick into transmit. It would kick on and off as it was wiggling. So that was an issue. And there were times when it was plugged in and I would key the mic and it would not transmit until I wiggled this again. So I thought something was wrong. I thought, well, okay, maybe I can get another one of these ports. And I thought these ports were like mounted to the metal frame. But when I took it apart and looked, these are just simple extension with a rubber grommet around it, and they are just pushed up against this frame. And, oh, sorry, yellow jacket there hanging out. So how it works, and I'll try to show you the best I can here on camera. So they are just pushed into these little tiny holes here, and then on the back side, maybe you can see, there's some little screws. So what they do is they push that jack up against the metal plate, and then they run two screws in beside it to hold it in place. but it's no different than like an audio jack extension cable. So it's not screwed in or mounted anyway. And when I looked at it, I realized all of them are like that. So it's just a rubber plug, not any different from this, only it would be female. They push it up into that spot, and then they screw two screws in beside it to hold it in place. And what I found was that I think when I was inserting the microphone, this had slipped down, so the rubber on this was touching the case before it got fully into the jack. Since I took that out, took the screws out, pushed it forward as far as I could, put the screws back in, I have not had that issue again. So I think that's been resolved. I've been using the case in my house. I've been leaving the radio in the case because I wanted to see how it did with heat. I chased POTA stations and it got warm, but I was watching the temperature gauge on the radio and it never got up. It never really went up very high. Now, being outside in the middle of summer, with it being super hot out, and if you were doing a lot of transmission, maybe it would get hot. But it's something to consider. But I was just going in here and keeping an eye on the temperature, and it's been cool. I've never gotten the radio up to hot. Maybe if you were doing digital modes, maybe that would make a difference, but I haven't had an issue. So, but other than that, I'm still happy with it. I still think it was a good deal. I did have this little neoprene case, and I found that if I just tuck it down in here, I had talked about maybe lining this, but I found that if I just put this case in here, I can throw the microphone and some other accessories in there and then just kind of push it down, and that's what I've been using. That way too, I can pull it out and I can take everything out. If I line this with foam, it might make it hard to get it in and out. So now this does fit in my backpack, but it is definitely deeper than the other cases I've used, including the Apache 2800 case, which I have put in my backpack before. This is deeper, and it definitely is noticeable in the backpack because it's, like I said, much deeper. So it pushes out a little bit further. It makes the backpack look really big. But for the intended purpose of this is to use in a vehicle, I think, or short distances. This isn't made to take on an all-day backpacking trip in this case, because this case adds almost 4 pounds. And if you're going to be doing that, I don't think you're going to want to take the case. So if I was going to do a long hike and I only had this radio, I would probably take it out of this case, just because of the weight. Even if it was wintertime or something, this just adds a lot of weight to be hauling around when you're backpacking. I have the TX500, which I think is a better radio for sticking in a backpack since it is weather resistant. I think there's less worries. You don't have to put it in any type of special case and you're good to go. With this, with the Icom 705, I think that's a concern. So I want to be able to keep it as dry as possible. So, but that's the update on the case. Again, and I will put a link down below where I got this from. I want to say it took over 2 weeks to come in, and it was said it was shipping from California. So I don't know if it really was. But again, the marks on here are still there. That's not big. I haven't had a problem with the USB cable or anything like that. Everything else has been pretty good. Again, I'm nitpicking. These ports being too close is one issue. I kind of wish the case was a little better. It's good. The piece of foam that I put in here is just pressed in there. It's not glued, and it seems to hold the radio just fine. It doesn't wobble or bounce around. No complaints. So, would I buy this again? Yeah, because I think it's a good option for a nice little portable kit, especially if you're going to be car portable, where you're just going to be driving to a park and setting up on your tailgate or something like that, or a park bench not far from the vehicle. I think this is a good option. Or coming out in your backyard for, winter field day or something. I think this is a good option. And like I said, with this I found that with this on my desk and me sitting in a chair, I don't even have to prop it up or anything to see the screen. It's a little off, but I can still see everything pretty well. And I'm a tall guy. I sit a little bit higher than my desk, so I haven't had to prop it up or angle it or anything like that. But that's my update. I hope you enjoyed it. This is Tango Oscar Mike 73. Take care.
Tango Oscar Mike